Hey, everybody! Thank you so much for joining us. Have you all ever tried to get involved with an organization, a political party, a nonprofit, a boosters, something, and you had so many great ideas and you couldn't wait to get in there and help and raise money and do all these things, and then you meet the leaders at the table and they're like, no thanks, you don't need to be here, we got this. And you're like, but I got all these new ideas. No, we got this. And then you're like, okay, I guess I'll go home. And then you get home and you're like, what just happened? I was so excited to get involved in this new thing. That's called gatekeeping. And it happens all the freaking time. Right, you two?
Yep.
Join me and Scott Aaron Rogers and Corinne Strait as we discuss gatekeeping and how to stop it. And we're going to really zoom in and examine the Indiana State Democratic Party and Republican parties and how they have gatekeeping and what we can do to get in there and make our state better. So let's get the word out. Let's do this. Thank you for joining us. Okay. So, how are you two doing?
Good. How are you?
A little stressed, but okay.
Yeah.
I have one quick hope message for everybody watching. Has it been a rough couple of weeks for you all? It's definitely been a little dark for me. I'm getting a lot of messages from my friends and family and people I don't even know about the news. This negative story and this negative story and this terrible thing and this terrible thing. And I'm like, is anybody else feeling that way? And I reached out to Tim Peck and told him, and he gave me good advice, and I'm going to give it to you all now. Basically, the news, social media, they are bombarding us with terrifying stories, so many, and they're profiting off of it, right? They're profiting off of this fear and anxiety that we are having, and we're clicking on these scary stories and reading about them, and we're full of anxiety and we can't sleep at night. That is doing us no good. Also, a lot of these scary things aren't actually going to happen. If we're talking about national, courts are going to stop some of this stuff. And some of it will never even materialize. But we don't know. We can't tell what thing to be scared about, so we're just scared about everything. My suggestion is to turn that crap off. Focus on your family, focus on friends, and when stuff progresses and we get more information and we find out this is something we need to be concerned about, organize, work together, and fight it. And if we can't fight it, maybe we don't let it destroy our day. I don't know.
You know, Sarah, you make a good point, but I will say you've got way more faith in the system holding than I do. That said, if you can handle it, pay attention to these things. If you can't, and again, like Sarah says, there's a lot. There's so much. It is meant to seem like a fire hose, and to knock us off balance and to breed confusion. So I guess it's important to keep an eye on what's going on, but don't let your amygdala get hijacked, and don't let yourself get knocked into a state of anxiety. Gather the information, take a deep breath, figure out what's important, what's not, and we build our little communities around here, or we build our solidarity, so if things do get bad, we have people to lean on.
Yeah. And I think a lot of us that do this kind of work that are really, plugged into politics at the local level, the state level, and, and the national level, we're that person for our family that is getting that text and and the freaking out. And I somebody asked me just the other day, how's your mental health doing? And I feel, honestly, I feel very peaceful. I know that sounds crazy, but I feel very peaceful. I feel a part of me honestly feels lucky to be here in this moment in history. I understand the immense amount of privilege that I have as a white person, as a straight person, as a cisgender person, as somebody who could always move back in with my parents if I needed to, if the financial, hit the fan. So to be in that position, I feel fortunate. And I know that sounds dark, and I know that sounds kind of weird, but I'm 41 years old. I think I've lived most of my life, probably like both of you, kind of under a bit of an illusion that this democracy was permanent, that it was something fixed, that it was something we didn't have to fight for anymore. And we, especially white folks who have traditionally been isolated from the worst of it, we are now feeling the ramifications of that complacency. And we have so many examples throughout US history of people we can look to who have fought these fights before. And we are not alone. And some people are not going to have the capacity to be in it all the time. And that's fine. They're going to use their talents for other things. So I really feel okay. I mean, even after all the tariff news from last night, and I started doing some deep dives and, watching the Mexican's president and watching Canada's prime minister respond. That to me, there's so much meat there. There's so much meat there, especially to talk to people in manufacturing states like ours, like Indiana, how bad that's going to be for us. And there's some real stuff to sink your teeth into that is not blue or red. It is not left or right. It is not R or D. It is the economy and the jobs and the things they told us they were running to protect are now in jeopardy. What are they going to do? That's 99% of us united against this threat. Yeah. So there's some piece that I take from that. I'm also not scrolling all day. I have no notifications turned on my phone. It's a very conscious decision when I'm going to enter into the news cycle. And this is the tip I give to everybody. Do not go to American national news. Don't do it. Don't do it. When you really want to get good information, you got to go to a foreign outlet. Do not get roped into the Fox and the NBC and the CNN. That's the clicking that Sarah is talking about. That's the eyes. That's the doom scrolling. And especially right now, going outside of North America, because they're the ones that are really kind of looking down from a more neutral perspective, go to the BBC, go to Al Jazeera, go to France 1. They'll translate it for you. The captions will be in English. But go to those outlets that are going to give you so much context on this North American relationship. So that is my tip to everybody. Turn off your notifications. Do not go to national American news, because it's there to manipulate your emotions.
Yeah. And so social media and the stories that they're pumping out and they want you to click or freak out over. And I think if it wants to induce an emotion from us, that pays a price on our mental health. Mm-hmm. And we need to be more respectful to ourselves and say, I don't deserve that emotional manipulation right now. I'm going to turn that off. And I'm going to talk to family and friends or people that care about me. And then I'm going to work on this when I want to. I'll participate in protecting democracy when I'm ready. But I'm not going to let them upset me. And
they don't deserve that from us. They don't deserve that much of our emotional capital. And they're, and that's kind of like our broad overview, but I think it's taking us directly into our topic for today, which are very tangible local things that we can do to influence change in our state.
This is how I sleep at night, Corinne and Scott. I do things. I see the problem. I try to organize. I come up with the best way to help people. And then we do this and we talk to people, and then I can sleep at night because I'm trying. And us organizing and grouping and working together, this is how we handle what is going on locally and nationally. Before we jump into it, I'd like to thank you two for doing our 5-hour live on Tuesday. We are a brand new startup independent media company. Corinne and I rocking the shirts. These are brand new. These are the first ones printed. If you would like to support us, you can go to HeyElmer /Project Next. and you can sponsor us and get a gift from the store. You can get a shirt, you can get a button, a magnet, or a mug, or a hoodie, and
Refrigerator not included.
and a sticker. Shipping not and
Refrigerator
handling
not included.
If you live in the Corden area, you can click on picking it up in store. It's in Corden. But that will really help us. Thank you to all of you that already sponsored us. I have a box of new equipment in my house that my husband and I are working on figuring out. And once I get it figured out, I can go on location shows. So those will be coming soon. The first tester one, we're going to be using my phone. And the first tester one is going to be Chris, my husband, making overnight oats for us, because Dr. Tim talked about that on his Dr. Tim show, about how oats help lower cholesterol. So be looking for that, you guys. That's coming up soon. That's going to be like a nighttime live. That's going to be like a 9 at night this week. That's going to be fun.
And I told you, Sarah, you have to tell Chris, if he can get me to like overnight oats, I'll bake him something, because I have tried oatmeal for my entire life and I can never do it. So
his is the best oatmeal, and I add a couple things to mine to make it taste even better, and I will include those in the end. And
I feel like if I put like
I challenge him to an oat off.
Yes, let's have
and I'm your subject. You have to get me to like them without me putting like a ton of M&Ms in it, because I feel like that's what I would want to do.
That's funny.
Like, I'm just going to add like Oreo pieces to it, right?
That's cute. Okay, so now we're going to move on to our topic, which I got to tell you, I'm already getting heat from on the Democrat side. So, is it getting hot in here? Because, all right, so we're talking gatekeeping, and we're talking Indiana Democrat and Republican parties gatekeeping, which means they work hard to keep the same people at the table, and they don't want new people coming in. They don't want change. They're scared of change. They want to keep the same people in. Right now, it's pretty exciting. In March, this month, or this next month, you guys, we're going to have a complete reorganization in the Democrats and Republican parties of Indiana. We're going to be March 1st, we're going to be getting new county chairs. The next week we get new district chairs, which there are 9 districts in Indiana. And then the next week we elect a new Indiana Democrat and then Republican state chair. I don't know whether the Republican state chairperson is going to stay the same. Do you know, Scott?
I don't know, and I want to say their timeline is slightly different. Like, I think their chair election's in April.
Oh, okay.
But
so
the
Republicans
Democratic
a little
one
bit
is
different.
very much like one week than the other than the next.
Would you mind looking up whether Republican chair is who it is, and if they're gonna because I forgot to research that before we started, because I'm interested. So our chair, Mike Schmoll, has said he is not going to seek re-election. So we have several new people coming. And then you might be like, well, how do you elect all of these things? How do we elect county chairs, district chairs, and state chairs? And well, we're going to tell you, and then we're going to encourage less gatekeeping and more people to come to the table, and why that is needed. If you have been following Indiana politics, you know we have a supermajority of Republicans, and the Democrats have very little say in Indiana. We basically can just shine a microphone, shine a spotlight on the terrible bills being passed, going through our legislature right now at the Indiana state level, but we can do very little to stop them. And so I would say most Democrats, most people in Indiana, whether a Democrat or not, would say it's not good for one political party to have complete control, because then that party gets more extreme, and then you get laws that hurt most people. So we need to stop that. And we've got some gatekeeping happening. Yeah. Okay. So first up, let's talk about county chairs. So in Harrison County, we're going to be getting, that's where I live, we're going to be getting a new chair probably March 1st. And not everybody gets a vote. Did y'all know that? You can't just show up at a meeting and get to vote for the chair. You know what you have to be? Precinct chair.
Yes,
you got to be
committee person or vice person.
Yes, a PCP, yeah. Precinct committee person. And who gets to pick those? Well, the people in charge of the party get to kind of help pick those. So you've got in each county, you've got a chair, a vice chair, a treasurer, and a secretary. So you got 4 people, and then they help get precinct people from all the different areas in your county. So I am a precinct person for Harrison County. Now, I didn't just get to be that. You know what I had to do? I quit my teaching job, freaked out about national politics, and I just Facebook messaged Harrison County Democrats. I was like, I wonder if there's a county Democrat party. I don't even know, but I'm worried about democracy. So I got on there, I messaged Susie, a volunteer at the time, messaged back, invited me to the Zoom meetings. So I started attending monthly Zoom meetings. I was so freaking annoying, you guys, acting like I knew everything, talking all the time. I didn't know anything about local. They, over the years, explained to me about local elections, about how they need people running for office. And I just kept coming back and coming back. And then all of a sudden, after, I don't know, 6 months or less, I got an email inviting me to be on the leadership team, which you don't even have to have in your county, but our county has one. So all of a sudden I'm going to more meetings, and then I'm given power of the social media. So I'm in charge of Harrison County, them Facebook and Instagram. And then around that time, they also asked if I wanted to be precinct chair because they didn't have one for Morgan or Palmyra area where I live. So then I got to be precinct chair. So there wasn't a whole lot of gatekeeping happening in my county Democrats. Now, if you are watching this and you tried to get involved in your Republican Party, your Democrat Party, or any organization, and there was gatekeeping, I'd love for you to put it in the comments. You don't have to name what organization it was. We'd encourage you not to, but just say, I tried to get a leadership role in something and they told me I wasn't wanted. Just so people realize this happens all the time.
Sarah, if I may, I want to talk about like the precinct committee persons in the Democratic Party. So this is an elected position, and precinct committee people run in the primary of the midterm election in the Democratic Party. Now, in the Republican Party, their precinct committee people are up for election in the primary of the general election year. So,
Yes.
Republicans just elected their precinct committee persons this past May. Democrats next do this in May of 26.
26.
In between then, precinct committee persons can be appointed by the county party chair. And that's, I imagine, how most of them are put in place. Like, for example, I am a appointed precinct chair.
That's so helpful, Scott. I know how, and even looking through some of the here in Indiana, some of the state legislation that is being proposed to make just voting for regular people even harder, which is frustrating. Then you add another layer on top of that, of then how to get involved in the party and in the process. So that's kind of a whole nother big leap. And I'm interested in both of your thoughts on this too. So before the gatekeeping even happens, before you're even at the table to hear you're too young or we don't need you or whatever, how many barriers already exist to even get you to that table? Whether it's family obligations, free time, there are so many barriers in place before you even get to that table. And it is so disheartening to make to get childcare, to change your work schedule, to do all of these things. And you're like, I did it. I'm getting involved. And then you go sit down at the table and you hear, oh, you're not exactly what we want.
Yeah. So one major problem with the precinct chair thing that we have in Indiana, it's very hard to see that list of who is a precinct chair. So in Harrison County, if you ask us for the list, we will give it to you. And you can see who's precinct chair. I don't know who's precinct chair of the Republicans in Harrison County, but I have a suspicion that it's people that the chair, who's been chair for a very long time, and will probably be chair again in Harrison County, Scott Fleur, I suspect it's people that are going to blindly support him. And so you couldn't ask Scott Fleur, hey, could I see the list of precinct chairs so I can talk to him so maybe we could get some new people as chair? He's just going to say, no, you don't get to see who the list is. So then how do you get new leadership if the chair isn't welcoming? So one thing we could do if we elect someone that wants change for Indiana State chair is we could change the handbook, the guidebook. We could make it easier to see who is precinct chair, and we could help encourage more people to be at that table and to have a vote for who is county chair. Okay. Also for county chairs, whoever is the if it's a male that's chair, then a female has to be vice. If it's a female that's chair, the male has to be vice, and that's for both political parties, Democrat and Republican, which can make it difficult sometimes when not many people want to do that role, but I understand why they are doing that. I'm glad women have a voice at the table here. So I have heard,
Sarah, is that DEI?
I know. It's even in the Republican rules.
It is a good question,
Yes,
right?
Yeah, right.
Especially in this environment, when we look at doing things to make things more balanced. Even I saw some, I'm sure some of y'all have seen this too, but like even the joke that the Electoral College is DEI for red states, right? It increases representation of red states in the presidential election. So here in Indiana, we're absolutely benefiting from DEI with the Electoral College. So it's just really interesting how DEI is like a buzzword, but if we take DEI out of it completely, it's just about representation. It's just about 50% of your population's women, 50% are men. Let's have one of each of them. So I'm throwing that out there of just because I want to remind people of more examples of what could be seen as DEI when we really just talk about representative.
Right. And I'm glad for that one because I want women at the table. And as we know, when you look at history, we haven't had as many women leaders. We still haven't had a woman president. It doesn't mean we haven't had qualified people that could do that job. So we're going to be having March 1st elections in Harrison County for a new chair. And we are asking if anybody's interested to come to the meetings and to let us know if you're interested. So far, it's just the main people that do the work in Harrison County Democrats, and we're going to find a decent female and a decent male that will step up. We really need a good secretary in Harrison County. So if you're listening to this, it doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, or you've never voted before, or you don't know. If you want to help the community, we would love for you to come to meetings. Our next meeting is Tuesday, February 10th at 7 p.m. at the Harrison County Community Foundation, which is by the Boys and Girls Club in Cordon. We would love for you to come. We really need help with tech stuff. We need email help. We need somebody that can work on a website. We have a website. It's easy to work on, but we need help with that. So we are asking for more people to come at our table. We could use more volunteers. And I do want to throw out, we try to be as welcoming as possible. Corinne and Scott, you all came to Harrison County Democrat headquarters. You came on November 2nd and had the Women's March with us. We had about 110 volunteers come to that. We have people in this county coming to meetings, coming to protests, coming to things. So even though we have zero voice at the table of our government, it's 100% Republican. There's a lot of people in this county that want better for our community, and we are so welcoming. And we are not going to yell at you if you are a Republican, but you recognize the Republicans in this county don't represent us anymore. We are going to love that. You could bring so much to the table. Your opinion is so important. So step one for everybody listening to this right now, we need you to go to these meetings, Republican or Democrat. They have a monthly central committee meeting. Ours is the second Tuesday of every month at 7. Find out when yours are. If you are listening to this and you know when your Democrat or Republican meetings are, can you post that in the comments? Look it up. If you want to know, and send us a question, we will look it up for you the first thing to do to get involved is to go to the monthly meetings. And then you'll see how active your Democrat or Republican Party is and if they are welcoming. Report back to us. We want to know.
Mhm.
I have heard from some people. I've heard from some people that their counties in Indiana, when they went to their Democrat meetings, they weren't welcomed. Maybe that's changed. Try again. I was pretty pushy. They weren't rude to me, but I was pretty annoying, and I just kept coming every month. I just didn't give up. And it wasn't like they were like, Sarah, we're so glad you're here, lovey-dovey, Sarah. They weren't mean, but they weren't lovey-dovey. I just kept coming. You got to keep going. Don't get your feelings hurt. Don't take things personally. And then see if you can become a precinct chair. So that's the first couple things you all can do if you want to get involved in your local party. If we want to save Indiana, we need good Republicans going to these meetings. We need good Democrats going to these meetings that want to help Indiana get better.
Yeah.
Then,
and I can't speak to sorry, Corinne, you go ahead.
No, I was going to lead us into kind of talking about the layers of the cake here, getting up to the cherry on top, the Dem chair of laying the foundation of the district, the counties, the precincts. So yeah, to get it up to the Dem chair. Go ahead, Scott.
So what you do?
Well, I wanted to say that at the precinct committee, and I can't speak to the shape of the Republican Party in Indiana, but I know the Democratic Party needs more precinct committee people. Like there are a lot of precincts that do not have a person.
We have openings in Harrison County. Yes, there's openings
a lot
in
of times
most counties.
It's just a matter of you go to your county and chair and say, hey, we need somebody here. Can you appoint me? And like Sarah was saying, hey, maybe they're amenable to that and welcoming, and maybe they're more like, nah, you got to show me what you all about yourself first.
And then we want to know, is your party welcoming? Are they gatekeeping, or are they wanting new people at the table? Because that's how we organize. We got to fix it from the ground up, get more precinct chairs, get more people active. You're so right, Scott. So the precinct chairs get to vote for who's going to be chair. You vote for chair, then you vote for vice chair because the male-female thing. And then you vote for, I don't know whether it's treasurer or secretary after that. Okay, that's March 1st. That's the first week. The second week, whoever are the newly elected chairs of all the counties, they get to vote who's going to be your district chair. So I live in District 9. Our District 9 chair is Adam Dickey. I believe he is planning on running again. And the people that are county chairs have a lot of influence over the district chairs' jobs. So district chairs have a lot of power. District chairs get to vote for state party chairs. So this is huge, you all. Anybody go into the meetings, you all voice to your new chair that you're going to find out who that's going to be March 1st. You voice who you want to be your district person's chair and the state chair. And they should vote for who they think is best for district chair, and then tell district chair who they want to win as state chair, because it should come from all of us, because only 40 people get to vote for state chair. So each one of those 40 has so much power. So all 9 district chair people get to vote for who is the state person. And then also there's a state central committee, which Scott just put up on the screen. They get all to vote. And then people that are the chairs of certain caucuses, like the Young Democrats, the College Democrats, the Latino, there's all these different caucus branches, and they equal 40 votes at the table that get to vote for state party chair. So basically we're going to have 1 week after county chairs are picked. The next week it's district chairs. Then we got 1 week to talk to those 40 people, and then they get to vote the next week for state party chair. Now, we have so much influence over this, everybody. Don't sit back and say, these 40 people are going to vote for who they vote for. Nope. This is the time where all of us listening get involved. We voice who has a vote. Do we know any of them? Can we email them? Can we call them? Can we text them? Can we say who we want for chair? If we do not do this, I believe gatekeeping is going to happen. I believe the people that are at that small table are going to pick somebody that they think will listen to them, and then we won't grow as a party. And if you are sitting here in Indiana, it's pretty obvious we need change, we need growth, we need better organization. We need somebody not scared to try some new things and to welcome more people. Yeah. Is there something
We
I
need better
forgot about
people in
that?
both parties. Yeah.
We need if you are listening to this and you're a Republican, oh, please get involved in your Republican Party, because we need better people on both sides. Yeah. So let's talk about who is running. So I'm going to be calling Adam Dickey. If he wins for our District 9 chair, which I believe he will, I will be calling him as a precinct person, as someone who's ran for state house, and I will be telling him who I want him to vote for. And I want you all to know that 40-person vote, it's an open vote. You get to see who the people are voting for. So I want Adam to know I will be watching who he's voting for. Is he voting for someone that I think will continue the gatekeeping, or is he voting for someone that wants to grow and change and add people to the table? So I'm going to put pressure on Adam. He's a friend of mine, and I'm not scared to do it. And if you are in District 9, I encourage you to do that. He will listen. He will talk to you. He's a decent person. So we can do things. Laura Williams, who ran for commissioner in Clark County, she put a great, how did I get it to show? They need active PCPs. Yes. So if you are going to be a precinct chair, you need to attend meetings and you need to come whenever we're voting. And it's a 4-year term. It's a 4-year term if you're running for county chair or the state or the district. It's all 4 years. And if they resign, then the precinct's got to come back and vote for somebody else. So yes, Laura, we need active precinct chairs. If we had more of them, we'd have more organizing at the local level, which is what we need to win elections in local places. So that's a good point,
More
Laura.
people
Thank
in
you.
those spots, the more influence we have, because
Mhm.
in both parties, it is a bottom-up grassroots organization. You know, if you have the numbers, you can change the direction of the party, unless you run into gatekeepers who keep you from getting those numbers.
Right. So I want to talk about, there are 4 people that are running for state chair. I know 2 of them very well. Do you have that, Scott? Can you pull that up?
I've got them up individually. I don't have like one page with all of them. But
so
you
one
want
of
to
them's
start
on
with
the
somebody in
street.
particular?
So there's Karen Talion, who I think, Karen, you know, and Scott, do you know? I've never met her.
I've spoken with Karen. We're still trying to set up an interview, but I have not nailed that down just yet.
It appears Karen is the person that the people that are in power, the Indy people that have a lot of votes, the Central Committee, that this is the person they want. They voiced support behind her. I believe she is 74. I've never met her. I believe she's a nice person, and I won't be talking to anybody about anybody's character or anything like that. In my opinion, she's going to do what the people already in power want, and that's why they're putting their support behind her. So this is not my favorite person, and I will be putting pressure on Adam Dickey and on everybody at District 9 and everybody that has a vote to go with some new people. But I believe she's a perfectly fine person.
Is a longtime, public official in Indiana. She was a state senator from the Valparaiso area up in the region for a long time. She was a champion, one of the most outspoken people for legalizing marijuana in the state.
Yeah, that's great.
And
That's
she always
wonderful.
fought for that. So, I can't speak to, what she would do if in charge, but there certainly is a generational element here. There's like, especially with the 3 women candidates, it's a very stark divide. When you've got Talion is, in her 70s. The generation below that, you've got Jennifer McCormick, and then a generation below that, you've got Destiny Wells. And I don't know where Derek Camp, the guy in this race, fits in.
Yeah,
he's a guy too.
So then another person is Derek Camp. Do you guys know him? I do not know him.
I've also reached out to Camp.
He's the chair of is it Allen County?
Allen
He's
County.
the chair of
Allen
Allen
County,
County
that's
Democratic
Fort Wayne.
Party.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
he is running. And I have never met him. Is Allen County? Where is Allen County?
That's
That is
Fort
Fort
Wayne.
Wayne.
Fort
Yeah,
Wayne. Okay.
Fort
So
Wayne.
far away from me. That makes sense. Yeah. So Derek is running. And then we have anybody want to say anything about him? Looks like he's got 15 years experience.
I know that Derek is running on that he increased the involvement in Allen County and really increased their fundraising base.
That's great. That's wonderful. Okay. And then we have Jennifer McCormick. She is a former Republican. She's a former like superintendent of schools. And she ran for governor. I know her. And she did pretty well running for governor as a Democrat. She got 41% of the vote statewide and ran on saving public education. And she is running for state chair. And she wants to, Scott, tell us a little bit. You had her on your show. What are her plans if she's chair?
Yeah, I did. I spoke to Dr. McCormick within the last couple weeks and did put out that interview as part of my podcast, Who's Left. That's at www.whosleft.us. And over there, we talked about her vision for the party. Yeah, we said she is a former Republican. One of the things she really touts is like she knows how a well-run professional organization should be run in the state. And criticism is kind of that the Democratic Party in its current form is not that.
Yes. Yeah. And she did a good job with fundraising, and she was down here a lot. I saw her all the time in my little State House 70 district, and then in District 9.
She was all over the state, did a lot of work.
She worked her butt off. She's willing. We're gonna invite her on the show. She has expressed interest in being on the show, so look forward to that soon. I am very thankful for Dr. McCormick and all she's done. I'm thankful she ran for governor. I hope she runs again. I hope she saves public education here in the state. That's something I'm extremely concerned about. I think a lot of us are, because they're trying to defund it and turn it over to charter and private schools, our taxpayer money. So I'm thankful to her for all that she's done, and I'm glad she's still involved. So be on the lookout to hear more, and you can check out Scott's podcast that just came out, and it's on like YouTube too, right? It's on
YouTube. It's on
he's
Substack,
a lot of places.
wherever you get your podcast.
Substack, yes, you can get an email, yeah. And then the last one is probably the one I'm most closely friends with. That would be Destiny Wells. So Destiny Wells ran for Secretary of State against Diego Morales, who is the FBI is looking into Diego Morales, by the way, for all kinds of money problems. He's also
all sorts of mess. Yep.
Yeah, I just saw that it looks like he hired his, I think was it his brother-in-law to
multiple family members, I believe.
Yes,
many.
He's hired a lot of family members on his team as Secretary of State now, and he's getting heat for that, but he's still our Secretary of State. She ran against him for two years ago, and then she ran for Attorney General. Destiny Wells is, I believe, 40, and she's a lawyer. She is active duty in the military. I call her badass. She takes on these people, like she ran against who are now Attorney General is, what's his name, Todd Rokita. I know Karen has done a lot about Todd Rokita on her TikToks. She goes against these people that seem to be absolutely terrible people and want to control us and take away freedoms. So I really give her credit for running against these people and standing strong and firm and shining a light on who they are and who she is. I know the most about her campaign for state chair because she's talked to me on the phone for a long time about it. She's the reason I understand the 40 people.
She was the first to announce, wasn't she?
I think so. She shared a story with me this morning that I'm going to share. When I told her we were doing this episode, she said, a few years ago, she had met with a Black pastor, and he had said he had tried to get a voice at the table of state Democrat leadership for 2 different times and was told no. They wanted to get a religious caucus and have a chair so that one more vote could go towards who is the state chair. And they were told no. He was told no twice. And Destiny was saying, this is the problem. We need to widen the table. We need more people, more voices, more organizations, instead of shutting people out and saying, no, we're going to be in charge. We're not listening to you. And I really thank her for trying this.
Destiny is spicy, and that ruffles some feathers.
And I think it's a little bit of sexism involved. If she were a man, I think these would be personality traits that many would be just gushing over. How
That's
great
leadership.
What a leader she is, or he is, and how brave, and he's going to say the truth and clean up. But since it comes from this person who's younger, attractive, a woman, I think it's harder for us to take, even on the Democratic side, when we're acting like we're so liberal and we're so on the forefront of diversity. I see it happening in the background. I am
just
upset.
Think of how, I mean, gender was a huge issue in this election, both at the national level and here in Indiana. I mean, we had 3 women with McCormick, Wells, and McCrae running for the 3 statewide seats here in Indiana. And our new lieutenant governor called them Jezebels, used racial and biblical, which is just so silly, insults to describe these women. And that absolutely had a huge, huge role in how they were perceived and how their plans were perceived. There was nothing they could do that was right. They were either too quiet or too loud or too smiley or too not smiling enough or too, it's the usual nonsense that we hear anytime a woman is running for office. And so that tone and that tenor has absolutely been taken into the governor's seat here for 4 years.
Yes, you're so right. Women that are leaders, we've seen this before. I know I've constantly been called too young. I'm 44 now. You cannot say that anymore. I've seen sexism my whole life. So, but sometimes I had to realize, oh, it's not because I'm too young. It's because I'm a woman. It's usually another excuse. But what it really is we don't really trust women yet. And, so there's a lot of that. I'm going to go ahead and say something I was a part of. You were there too, Scott. So I think you were too, because you're a precinct chair. Yeah. Or you don't have to be precinct chair. You were a delegate. Weren't you? Were you a delegate, Scott?
To the state convention?
At the state convention?
Yeah.
So, okay. So me and you were there. That's when we met. At the state convention in August. Is that right? July. In July, we got to vote. We had about 2,000 delegates, 2,000 Democrat delegates that went to Indy, and we went all day to this convention. And at the end of the convention, we got in this huge room and we got to vote for who Jennifer McCormick's pick for lieutenant governor would be. And who would go for attorney general. So we voted for those 2. Those were the only 2 that had people in a contested race. And I know stuff behind the scenes. I'm going to go ahead and just explain what happened. There were some Democrats that are on the Central Committee, some Democrats that have a lot of power that decided they didn't want Destiny to be attorney general, because she ruffled their feathers. She wanted change. She wanted more people at the table, and they didn't appreciate that. And they got somebody to run against her, Beth White. And they told somebody, I don't know who, somebody told Beth White false things about Destiny, gossipy, incorrect information. And that Beth White called all 2,000 delegates. She called my phone and left a message, and she recited the fake gossip as reason why we should vote for Beth over Destiny. And I am saying right now, that is unacceptable. And I hope that never happens again in Indiana in Democrats. Destiny won by a lot It wasn't close in the end, but she had to spend a lot of her campaign money in order to make sure she won. And that's fine. I think it's good. Like Terry Gooden had to spend money so that, and then he won. That was Jennifer McCormick's pick for lieutenant governor was Terry Gooden, but there were several other people. I think it's fine to have democracy and to have that election, but the way it was done to Destiny, because she's trying to get more people at the table and she's trying to get change, I am upset about personally. I think if you are one of these people clinging to power and you will use fake gossip to try to stay in power, I think that's a very big signal of maybe it's time to let go and let some new people in. That's my opinion. What do you guys have anything to say? You don't have to say anything if you want to, but just because I was behind the scenes knowing about it. What?
Oh, I said we haven't heard from Corinne in a while.
I know. I've been doing some reading over here, and no, I'm definitely on board with getting some new blood. I 100% respect Karen Talion and her service. I had her on my show many years ago. She's one of our lone Democrats up here in the northern Indiana area. So she was great to have on the show. She was a great state senator. She was a great advocate for her people. I think, what we see a lot in, it seems more, I guess it's not really on the Democratic side solely, but what is this age? What is this magical age that someone gets to be where they are finally taken seriously? Do you need to be a wonder child like Pete Buttigieg, who was, 27 years old and was seen as this dude's going to be president because he was so brilliant and so accomplished? So what is this age, right? What is this age that you have to get to? Because I think Sarah and I being in our 40s, is it because we're women that being a 40-year-old woman is too young, but being a 30-year-old man is fine and you're accomplished enough? And we know the future of the party and any party is younger voters. President or Vice President Harris did probably the worst with younger voters. And I need to go back on the numbers on this, but she did very, very poorly among younger voters, at least out of the last two presidential elections. And that was, there were so many factors that went into that, of course, but without that young vote, the future of the party has a really hard time moving forward. And I think that's part of the reason I mentioned this earlier, but the voter suppression bills that the legislature is putting forward for this year, one of those is to remove student voter ID as a valid student ID as a valid voter ID. So your university ID would no longer be acceptable to use in voting.
Yeah, that's passed in the committees. It could be turned into law. Another one is early voting only happening for a week.
Yes.
The state senator down here, Gary Byrne, he started that, and it got sponsors and it's being pumped up. So they are really in Indiana. They're very scared of us voting against them. We got some serious gatekeepers up in the Republican party that have control, that have supermajority. They are working super hard right now to pass laws to make it harder to vote. They don't want younger people to vote. They don't want people to early vote because it seems like the early voters are sometimes more informed on local issues and might vote against them since they seem to repeatedly vote in the way the majority of Hoosiers do not want. Another thing that happened in this election in Indiana specifically is we had low Democrat turnout, low young voter turnout. And I think a big reason we have that is because of this gatekeeping. If some of these young people came to a meeting and weren't welcomed, if some of them asked to be a precinct chair and were turned down, if they didn't feel included, then they leave. And then they say, why should I vote for these people? They don't care about us. And I think those are the people we need to get the most, and we need to change our systems and show them immediately, because we have an election in less than 2 years. We need to show them that we care about them. We want them to have a seat at the table, come to meetings, be precinct chairs, get elected on these positions, be a secretary, be treasurer, be vice, get on here. And then they've got important things to say that we need to listen to and try out some of their organizing grassroots techniques. If we do this in 2 short years, we could vote new people in power at the state house, at the state senate level, we could, in 2 short years, make positive change in Indiana. And that's why we're doing this episode today.
Yep.
It's don't get defeated. Don't feel like, oh no, these elite Democrats are going to vote for their people and there's nothing you can do. No. This is the time to start getting involved, and you make sure they feel the pressure of you. I know Adam Dickey I know he wants to hear from us. He wants to hear from the people that vote for him, how he should vote for chair of the state.
Yep.
So we tell him, we get in those rooms and we tell him how we want him to vote. Any other district chairs, a lot of them are changing out of the 9. I believe maybe even up to 7 of them might be changing to new people. So once we find out who those new people are, they need to feel pressure from those that live in their district of how we want them to vote, because there's only 40 people at that table.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't have long.
And we don't what?
We don't have long. It's a real quick turnaround. Once those people
we have
are
1
elected.
week. We have 1 week, and we will be letting you know what's going on. But if we work together, if you all share this episode, if you care about this and you're like, I didn't know how we elected county chairs or district chairs, I didn't know. Share this episode, tell your friends and family, and find out when your Democrat and Republican Central Committee meetings are. They're once a month. See if you can go. See if they welcome you. We don't know what it's like in every county. I just can speak for what it's like in Harrison County. We are welcoming you February 10th at 7 to come to ours. When's the Republican Party? I don't know. I have been, what's it called? I've been blocked off of their Facebook, so I can't tell you if they post it, if they post when the party is, but they need new people. They need more precinct chairs. Are they letting you do that? And if not, voice it. Shine a light on when these people are preventing us from getting in positions of power, because they don't like negative press about themselves. They don't want that.
The elites of both parties will say a phrase, and I bet you've all heard it. Wait your turn.
Oh yeah.
And
until when? Nobody ever says when is your turn.
And it's when they're
democracy
done,
doesn't wait. Democracy doesn't wait for turns. Okay,
No.
Then that's what they're afraid of. Again, the elites, both parties, which is not a partisan thing. The elites of both parties do not actually want democracy because that affects their power.
I'm going to tell you something that makes me upset about the Central Committee of Democrats in Indiana. I don't like the emails where they just get out there and they just praise themselves. Look how great we did this election.
Yeah, right?
What? We did not do great this election. Look, in Indianapolis, Democrats elected. Oh, really? Isn't that how it is in all major cities across the country? So in Indy's Democrat? Oh boy, I guess we should just sit back and let my county fall to crap. No, I do not understand why they're just patting themselves on the back instead of saying, listen, we need changes. We need more people at the table. We need more precinct chairs. We need more people voting for who these people are. We need to get younger people in. We need to get more minorities and more different opinions. They're not saying that at all. They're patting themselves on the back at what a great job. And I'm not trying to say that I'm not grateful for what they've done. It's not that. It's just kind of falling on deaf ears here. Clearly, we're not doing well in Indiana, the Democrats. Oh, did you all know this? I found this out from somebody that was a volunteered during the Obama campaign. Do you remember in 2008, Obama won Indiana?
Yeah.
Yep.
That was his first term. I was talking to somebody that was on that campaign at helping Obama win in Indiana, and he told me that they decided not to get in contact with the Indiana Democrats and organize with them. They did their own thing because they said there's too much gatekeeping. They are not organized. They're not doing a great job. So in 2008, Obama's team didn't even work with the Indiana Democrats. Now, in 4 years, we're going to be electing a new president. I hope that in that time, hopefully, I hope in that time, we the people on that team of whatever person it is cannot wait to work with the Indiana State Democrats because we're so organized and we're so willing to let new people come to the table. And then we have a greater chance of Indiana turning purple. So I just thought that was fascinating because I did not know that happened behind the scenes. Did you all know that?
I did
Yes,
not.
You did.
I
You knew it.
I knew it, and I mean, it's not the first time that it has happened, and it's not Democrats on the national scale, and we have to remember too, for Indiana and a lot of red states, we very much are on our own here. And so the idea that we have been abandoned by the National Democratic Party is something that we hear from Texas and Oklahoma and Missouri and Iowa. I mean, all of these quote unquote red states, they don't have the kind of relationships with the people at the national level who are going to run these presidential campaigns that you're going to get in an Illinois or in a Michigan. And so that's a huge deficit for us. And I think there has been a lot of soul searching, I'm hoping, and kind of in this post-mortem space, that ignoring Democrats in red states and pretending they don't exist is not a winning strategy.
No.
Because they thought they could rely on Philly, Pittsburgh, and Detroit and Madison. Like they thought they had these Democratic stronghold cities and they could ignore the redder parts of the state. Those cities didn't turn out the way they needed them to. So I'm really hoping we're in a new place. And that's why this chair leadership in Indiana is so critical.
Yes.
To get us somebody who can have those solid relationships at the national level and get people to pay attention to us.
So Laura is a friend of mine. She ran for commissioner in Clark County, and she said if we have central committee meetings, no one is told when they are. So this is an easy fix. So that's Clark County. So Clark County Democrats, please post when your meetings are so people can go to it. And please be more open with what is happening in Clark County. When I am planning on running for State House again, 2 of my counties are in Clark County, or 2 of my what do you call it? Townships? I can't think of what it's called. I don't know. But I have part of Clark County. I have Carr and Wood townships. Yeah. So I have seen a little bit of gatekeeping in Clark County Democratic Party, and I love the people. I'm not trying to insult anybody that's in power. I'm very thankful for what they're doing. But in today's time with social media, it could be a little bit easier when the meetings are. Let's get some new people in. That county has suffered a lot of loss because Jamie Knoll was the sheriff there, the guy that's arrested for taking over $5 million of our money, our taxpayer money. So let's Clark County. We could do a little bit better, you guys. And thanks for Laura being brave and saying, I don't know when the meetings are. That's shocking to me. She ran for commissioner. She should know when the meetings are. Like that's and then
it is silly to think about somebody that could be so plugged in like Laura and still not
she's
have
on our shows all the time. Yeah. She knows what's going on.
So how are the quote unquote regular people? How are the regular people that are not a bunch of nerds like we are? How do they even know? They don't.
So we could do better. And then Terry said, does the DNC leadership have an impact on state leadership?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, there are DNC members on the state central committee. So that is part of the one of the voting blocks. You know, you've got your constituency caucuses and your district chairs and vice chairs, and you've got a handful of DNC members from Indiana who vote for the state leadership.
And Terry said this was a very smart comment. I didn't know that. It makes sense why down ballot races didn't go well in 2008, talking about Obama. Since Obama and them didn't work with the Indiana Democrats, Democrats didn't particularly do great in the state, but Obama won the state. If we would have had better leadership and more people at the table and better organizing in 2008 with the Indiana Democrats, we would have had probably some more wins. And so in 4 years, in 2 years, in 4 years, let's do this better. Rural voices matter. I'm in a very rural place. I need help and support. I've also heard of really gross stuff happening with money. I didn't get any money when I ran for state house from the Indiana State Committee, but I
Yeah.
did hear that if you were a friend of the committee and you ran, sometimes you would get money. So it's not really a fair system of who gets campaign money. That could easily be could be cleaned up with better leadership at the top and better accountability and just shining a spotlight on who the Indiana Central Democrat Committee is donating money to. We can help with that.
Yeah.
But I'm
it
just
might not be
calling it out. We could be doing better.
Yeah. It might not be malicious. A lot of these folks,
I don't
I'm
think
sure
it is. I don't think it's
have
malicious.
they have what they think are the best interests of the state and the party in mind, and they think they know best, and they can disperse. They can gatekeep because, well, they've been around. They know better. But really, I think in the end, the wisdom of the crowd, the wisdom of more voices,
Yep.
is always going to be better.
Always going to be better. Yeah.
And change is scary. It's human nature to want to cling to your position and to protect it and to not want more people involved. It's human nature. I'm not saying these people are monsters or anything. We all do this. We all want to protect what we are in control of. But it is very obvious in the state of Indiana, we need more people, more organizations. We need less, I don't want to hear what you have to say. And it takes longer and it's harder. It's going to take more time to organize. We're going to have to learn really good communication skills and being empathetic to people. We all got to calm our emotions down and be more fact-based and just loving towards each other. It's hard. Democracy is hard. Something that Dan Cannon said that was sort of fascinating on our live. He said as soon as juries got more democratic and more people were at the table, the people that had the power made changes so that we had plea bargains more and less juries because they had less control over what happened to people on trial. And it's just human nature to want to stay in power. And I really encourage those 40 people that get to vote for who the state chair is to vote for all Hoosiers and not to try to cling to that power. I will meet you and beg, please vote for what's best for my children and your children and us, because Indiana needs help. The people living in this state need help. And if we're not going to vote for it now, when?
Yeah. Yep.
You guys got any lasting words? I just really want to thank everybody that came on today. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Laura.
Yeah, thank you,
everybody. My mom
everybody.
was on here showing support. Thanks, Mom. Love you.
Yeah,
and
thank you for the comments, guys. That really makes
it really
this
helps. The comments really help. I'm very thankful. I'm very thankful to everybody. And please, 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 if you want to show support for our new independent media company, we are a national company trying to shine a light on Indiana and other rural places. And we care about you. We want to take out the fear and the anxiety and the division that goes on in other media. And we want to help us build and unite. So if you want to support that, please go to HeyElmer/Project Next and get a gift and help help support us. So
absolutely. Thanks everybody.
Thanks, Karen. Thanks, Scott. Thank you, everybody. Love you guys.
Thank you guys.
Please share with everybody. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.